saw you coming in, saw that we'd wait. You're good. Good morning and welcome to your Fort Worth City Council work session. I will call us to order. Jay, the meeting is all yours.
Good morning. Show me some grace. Allergies are really bad, so if I sneeze or something goes off. For upcoming and recent events, we don't have anything specific to announce, but organizational updates and employee recognitions, I'd like to call Lauren Preer to recognize TPW team as recipients of the Smart 20 Award.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Fort Worth has been recognized internationally for our leadership in emerging mobility technologies. Our Smarter, Weather, and Safer Mobility Initiative was selected as one of this year's Smart 20 Award recipients by Smart Cities Connect. So this project uses an intelligent micro-weather sensor network to provide highly localized, real-time weather data, improving safety and reliability for autonomous vehicles, advanced air mobility, drones, and everyday roadway users. So the award presented earlier this month at the Smart Cities Connect conference in Raleigh highlights Fort Worth's commitment to innovation, strong cross-sector collaboration. So we're proud to see our work making a global impact and strengthening the future of mobility in our community.
Vehicles defining the future of mobility. But traditional tools weren't built for our roads, skies, or emerging technologies. Through the Smarter Weather, Safer Mobility Initiative, we're capturing real-time weather from the street to the sky, helping the city protect people, strengthen operations, and advance our Vision Zero initiatives.
The project is powered by a partnership with the City of Fort Worth, U.S. Department of Transportation Smart Grant Program, North Central Texas Council of Governments, Hillwood, True Weather Solutions, Torque Robotics. Regional innovators and the city are working hard to develop this system of weather intelligence software and hardware that helps us keep traffic moving, supports freight, and also enhances safety across our city and the region.
Small, powerful sensors now line key routes, measuring temperature, wind visibility, precipitation in real time. That data flows into a shared platform that we monitor, helping our crews and residents stay safe during weather events. Trucks and autonomous vehicles navigate hazards, and drones operate with precision. The results are already clear. Safer streets, strong supply chains, smarter maintenance, and more resilient economy.
At this project's core, this initiative is about people, our families, our crews that work at the city, the drivers that use our roads, and the businesses that make Fort Worth thrive. As the network continues to grow, we're going to continue innovating and keeping Fort Worth safe, connected, and ready for a world-class future. The future of mobility is taking shape, and it starts right here in Fort Worth.
Thank you all.
You're not going to give a speech, Kelly? Not today.
Next up, I'm asking Evan Roberts to come up and recognize Don Guy, Development Services, and receiving the Real Estate Council Excellence Award.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. It is my privilege to introduce or recognize Don Guy, who is a plans exam supervisor here with us, as the recipient of the Real Estate Council's Excellence Award. The award is given for exceptional dedication, innovation, and leadership in fostering urban and regional development. And we have a video we'd like to share from the recognition ceremony.
Excellence Award honors exceptional public servants who go above and beyond to foster urban and regional development.
I'm Drew Martin with DM Squared. Those of you who don't know Don Guy, let me tell you why we're honoring Don today. So if you've ever been to City Hall and you've had drama with your building permit, whether it's commercial, residential, you've gotten flagged by code enforcement, can't get through building inspections, can't even get your plans approved in the first place, Don is usually who you're going to end up talking to. Don is the problem solver. He's the one that they call when everyone else kind of runs out of questions and answers and helps get everything over the goal line. Don is the guy that everyone relies on to give you a solid answer that's not going to get overruled, run over, or be told two different ways to Sunday which way to actually do something.
I'm Don Guy, Plans Examiner with the City of Fort Worth. I've been with the city just under 8 years now. I like working with the customers, helping them solve their problems. The best thing is to be able to see the customer's project come to life in there and helping them understand the whys in it. Great customer service is understanding what the customer wants when they're not quite sure. Empathy and just seeing their project through to the end. We all have the same idea and goal in mind, is that economic development and getting into a safe building.
The 2026 Excellence Award is sponsored by Post L Group. Congratulations to Don Guy.
Thank you, Don, for everything you do and for showing leadership and how you do it.
Thank you. It was an honor to receive this.
Congratulations, Don. That was great. Appreciate you very much.
Up next, we have informal reports. The first is the Annual Development Activity Report for 2025. DJ Harrell's here to answer any questions. Next is the Third-Party Building Plan Review and Inspection Program. DJ is still here to answer any questions.
I have some questions.
Councilmember Beck?
Oh, actually, it's not DJ, it's Evan.
Has anyone ever said y'all look alike?
A couple times.
Thank you. I think you probably know the case that spawned this IR, so these questions are going to be a little familiar for you, but I appreciate you putting together the IR. If you could give just a brief summary real quick on this, why we utilize this in the city, what the process is, why we utilize it here in the city.
Sure. So the third-party development or the third-party plan review and inspection partners help us deal with the enormous workload that comes from our residential development sector. They do some commercial work too, but the bulk of it is handled by the third parties, the residential developments folks. They offer an alternative or some flexibility. They're able to do some things where the city doesn't typically offer inspections on weekends. They offer you for a fee, right? So the third-party plan review and inspections overview is we have certified about 10 companies to provide plan review and inspections as a, I don't want to say in lieu of, but in partnership with us. A developer or homeowner, anybody actually, can choose to select a third-party company, a private company, to do their plan review and inspections. The city still has oversight on it. The city still does the zoning review for those projects. The departments still work through us. We do all the inspection tracking, but the inspections, the physical plan reviews for the building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, and energy code are done by the third-party company in plan review and inspections.
Okay, and how do we certify these companies I'm assuming that we have a list of them somewhere on our website? And
Yeah, they have a contract with us, which has indemnity requirements, insurance requirements. They also have a strict certification requirement for their inspectors. They have to be licensed. Electrical inspectors have to have electrical license and inspection certifications. Plumbing, same thing.
Okay. Do we ever spot check their work?
Yes, we do.
Okay, how often do we do that?
So we have, we are working towards a 10% follow-up on them. It's sort of, as we go through that process, we're reworking that, and in light of the recent events, we're sort of ramping that up more. So our goal is 10% of each third-party company gets reviewed, 10% of their work.
And in the event, do we have any sort of system where we're keeping track of any mistakes that they might have made?
Yes, ma'am.
And so is there a threshold by, like, if there's more than, you know,
a certain number of demerits, right?
Yes.
The penalty, progressive discipline for them. Not necessarily at this point. We are, again, reworking sort of what that looks like. We're doing some on that. There is the option to decertify them. They have a contract with them. We can terminate that contract for lack of performance if we can establish a pattern. Or I would like to say if I find something that's so egregious that it warrants immediate termination, I don't want to be locked into you could have killed people, but you only have 3 demerits, so I can't decertify you. I would like to retain the flexibility to decertify them immediately if it's a significant life safety concern.
okay, thank you. I did ask for this IR because we had a recent issue come up in one of our neighborhoods, and one thing that you said to me in relation to a third-party examiner that didn't get it right. The thing that interests me the most is that you said the bulk of their work is actually residential. And so what concerns me there is that means that if we don't get it right, we're impacting our neighborhoods. And so that's, I think, a pretty significant impact. We've talked previously, because of this same case, we've talked about fines for people who don't seek inspections. Do we hold people who have we have gone to these companies and we have said, you are pre-approved because you meet all of these qualifications, and they hold themselves out as experts in the field. So do we hold them to a greater level of standard when it comes to fining? Say, for example, I'm just homeowner A, but Alan is using one of these pre-approved people. Are we going to hold them to a higher standard of knowledge than we do
Yes, that
homeowners?
absolutely is reasonable, right? We give more grace to homeowners and folks that shouldn't reasonably be expected to know better. The third-party companies, absolutely we do.
What I'd like to see is that codified in our ordinance to have a fine structure for those that are.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We
Right.
got another IR working on that
Okay,
one.
great.
So that'll be coming to you for sure. I do also, I don't mean to cut.
No, I'm good.
But I do want to let you all know that the third-party systems, as we've enjoyed it for 27 years right now, has worked really well in Fort Worth. Last year in the legislative session, there was a bill that came through that basically allowed, and that's in the IR too, you can read that, but I do want to make sure we touch on it. There was a bill that would allow anybody, either an engineer or anybody with anybody with an ICC certification, which ICC certifies permit techs, they certify special inspectors for welding, they certify all kinds of things. So anyone with any ICC certification would be allowed to do inspections, all inspections, anywhere in the state. There was no requirement for oversight. The city has no interest. There's no way to decertify them. The bill was really bad, and I fully expect that we're going to see it again in the future. So there are any opportunity we have to assert or to, cheerlead for the city's ability to at least register, certify, oversee these things because they're in our cities. We have a vested interest in protecting our citizens more so than some company out of Round Rock that's just making a dollar.
Well, and I'll brag on DJ, as you remember, went down several times to testify on that particular piece of legislation. And it was helpful because Fort Worth really is on the forefront of allowing third-party inspections, and we have a great system in place. But to Councilmember Beck's concerns, it is a balance, right? And so I think you're absolutely correct. If they would model what we do in Fort Worth across the state, that would be wonderful. But we're going to have to play some defense so they don't take a lot of our autonomy away.
And I think you brought up a very good point, and I would invite everybody at this table to just stare really directly at Alan Blaylock right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next IR is city preparation for FIFA World Cup.
I have a few questions, things
Donnie
that Councilmember
Saxton is
Peoples
here.
does too,
Any
yeah.
questions?
Sunny, thanks for the preparation on the IR. It looks great. My main question is, it's my understanding that the federal funds for FIFA reimbursement flow to the state of Texas, and ultimately we're not gifted, that's the wrong word. We're distributed to the city of Dallas and Dallas FIFA committee. Do you have any concerns about making sure that our allocation is received in a timely manner, and what are those discussions like right now?
Yeah, thank you. So we've been communicating with the North Texas Host Committee, which is sometimes in the news reported as the Dallas Committee. Those funds are primarily going to that North Texas Committee as a sub-award from the state. And they just recently, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, worked with the COG to establish an administrative process for those funds to be distributed amongst the communities. So thank you for raising the question. So I don't have any concerns at this point. We are communicating with them almost daily, with not just the administrative folks, but also those that are engaged in the planning. They have not given us a specific award amount to help, but we're going to communicate what those expenses are.
Thank you. Councilmember Peoples?
Can you talk a little bit about the ambassador program and how, several people have asked me about how they can get involved?
Oh, I love that. Okay, so first off, usually when I'm standing in front of you, it's a drab thing because we're talking about disaster. This is something fun for us, right? So we are, I think we're about 75 days away, so we're super excited. But I do have committees that have helped us with that planning, so I'm going to call on one of them to tell us about the ambassador program, if I may, to answer that question. So let's see. Mitch, yeah, could you talk just a little bit, Mitch, about our ambassador program for us?
Good morning, Mitch Whitten from Visit Fort Worth. There are really two ways people have gotten involved. Tens of thousands of residents applied across for DFW for the official FIFA volunteer training through the North Texas Organizing Committee. That is now closed, and there's some training going on. I believe there were many residents from Fort Worth and, of course, across Tarrant County. We've also partnered with Leadership Fort Worth for a host program where people can learn more about and get educated about what is FIFA, what is the World Cup, what countries are coming, how do I even say hello in those languages, as well as just getting updates on what our city's about. How do I talk about Fort Worth? Those are two free programs offered through Leadership Fort Worth. You can go to their website or fortworth.com/soccer2026. Each are free, each are 90 minutes, and they're online. You can take them at your own pace. More than 400 people have signed up, really from restaurants to realtors and all sorts of industries. So those are available to anybody.
Councilmember Flores?
Sunny, back on March 10th, I think it was, yourself, myself, members of your emergency management team, and also SUNA's communications team, we're present over there at the Cotton Bowl to get a FIFA government update on things. Can you cover the high points, the relevant takeaways as they pertains to our city?
Sure, yeah, I appreciate that. So some of those are included in the IR. From that, I would say that first off, for those that may not be tracking, our first match is June 14th, and we're going to have 9 matches that go until July 14th, and then it ends with the semifinal. So I appreciated being able to attend that with you. Thank you for that invitations. And that was an exciting event where we learned more about the fan festival that was going to occur. So there's approximately 1.5 million visitors that they're projecting to the fan festival, and then approximately $1.5 to $2.1 billion in estimated economic impact. I mentioned that we had the 5 work groups. I should probably mention them by name so that way you understand the breadth and the depth of the planning that has been going on and how that connects to what we went to. And so we have hospitality, beautification, communication engagement, safety and security, and infrastructure. And really for us, what did that mean, being able to go to that and see the whole of the region come together? Like for instance, with our safety and security teams, they're planning, and they have been planning, as you know, for over several years, but really actively planning over the last year. We're meeting almost weekly or almost sometimes twice a day to really talk about all the interconnections that are happening. The other big takeaway that I remember you and I talking about was related to the transportation hubs. So what people may not know is that if you're traveling through mass transit to get to the stadium for game day, you're going to be traveling through the city of Fort Worth, through our Centerport station, and as well as other stations. So we want to make sure that we have our best foot forward, that we're welcoming. We also care a lot about our residents that are not going to the game, and how do we make sure that we're not impacting them as well. And so those are all things that are kind of top of mind as we think about the planning. So thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Sunny.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, enforcement responsibility for front side yard parking. Commander Antoine Williams and Brian Doherty from Code Compliance are here for any questions.
I'd like an overview.
Good morning, Mayor Parker, Mr. Chopper, and Council. I'm Antoine Williams, Commander of East Division Patrol. I'm here to talk to you about the front and side yard parking violations and give a little background on where this originated, where police took over primary responsibility. Between approximately 2007 and 2009, the PD assumed primary responsibility for enforcing the front yard and side yard parking violations due to a staffing decrease in code compliance and corresponding increase in police staffing levels. Code compliance, usually their hours of operation are from 7:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening. Currently, code compliance addresses front and side yard parking violations only when already on site for a separate code violation, and complaints received solely for front and side yard parking are forwarded to the assigned NPO for that beat. Reporting methods currently available for our citizens is calling the police department's non-emergency line, submitting a report through the My Fort Worth app, and also through email at the 1234@fortworthtexas.gov. In 2025, Fort Worth Police Department responded to 12,631 parking violation calls for service, approximately 950, or 8% of which involved potential front and side yard parking violations. Although these calls are categorized as low priority, each one requires call taker intake, dispatcher processing, and officer response times. What we learned was calls rapidly increased at 0700 hours. Peak call volume was between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m., and the highest hour was at 0900, which resulted in 1,117 calls. So because officers must prioritize emergency incidents and violent crimes, these complaints often remain pending for extended periods, which resulted in service delays, increased call backlog, and negatively impact perceived police response performance despite the issue being regulatory rather than criminal in nature. So in 2025, Fort Worth PD officers issued 402 citations for front yard and side yard parking. Of those, 268, 67% were issued between 7:30 and 4:30 p.m. Assigning sole responsibility to the PD just to address the front and side yard parking violations was proven to be inefficient, so we collaborated with code compliance to come up with a more effective way to address these violations. Under this approach, code compliance will assume primary responsibility for enforcing front and side yard parking violations with support from our neighborhood police officers for violations occurring outside of code compliance's operations. So the expected outcomes with that will be a reduction in non-emergency call volume, increased patrol availability for priority incidents, faster response to quality of life complaints, and improved public perception of service responsiveness. So if y'all have any questions of me, if not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Doherty from Code.
Commander Williams, I just wanted to say thank you for putting this report together and working with our office. I know I had suggested maybe handing that off to the crime reporting unit, but I'm glad that you and Code were able to come to an understanding. And, you know, I know our MPOs get pulled away for special details or to assist patrol. And I think that, you know, taking this off their plate will help to improve community relations because, you know, if it is yard parking, I know that they really make an effort to do education first. And, you know, I know this is an issue throughout the city, not just in our district. So I really believe this is going to help improve that situation.
I agree. Thank you.
Brian, you can come up. Anything you want to add, sir?
Brian Doherty, Director of Code Compliance. I would like to add that our animal care and control team is over 90% live release rate for the year. Hasn't been done in 6 years. Hey. Team rocks. That has nothing to do with side and front yard parking, but I will talk about that now. Yes, we're taking it over. We'll take the initial calls. The implementation won't happen until May because we're going to have to update the call center as well as how the app funnels the complaints. We're also going to take a different approach where we're not citing on first offense. We're going to tag the vehicle first. That helps the resident know, and it also helps everyone else who complains when they say, code's not doing anything. They can drive by and see the sticker on the vehicle and know that we have done something. So we're altering that as well. But yeah, we're excited to work with PD, and anything that's after hours or the weekend where we can't get after a few inspections, we'll send it over to them to handle. But any questions for me?
No, I was just going to say, Brian, I think this is good because that will keep me from getting complaints from residents that a police officer knocked on their door at 8 in the morning. So that'll be a lot better if they see a citation for code.
Councilmember
Just have one quick question. So the sticker amounts to essentially a notice of violation, correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah, it'll have the same verbiage, what they violated, that they can't do it. It's just not going straight to citation. And it's a softer way, and again, it tells the public, because even if we were to write a citation, it'd be mailed to them, they still see the vehicle there, they're like, code hasn't gone out and inspected. So it's 2 ways of communication, and then after that, though, it will be citations.
So are you able to verify the ownership of the vehicle when you approach said vehicle?
We can, but it's a property violation. It's not a vehicle violation. It's where it's parked, so that's still on the tenant or the property.
The reason I ask that is because what if someone's visiting the property?
Yeah, and again, that's why we're going to the notices and stickers first, so they know to remove it. And very often, this was one of our more contentious calls where we go to, if we even knock on the property, they run out and move it. Now, if they're a repeat violator, a lot of times we've already wrote the citation, and so it gets a little, that's something that can be remedied right there on spot, so they can't get upset. And obviously, that's what we want. We want them to correct the violation, but if they're a habitual violator and whatnot, but no, we'll try to make contact as well.
Okay. English and Spanish? Text, or have you?
Almost certain that the stickers have both, but if not, we'll make sure they have both.
Okay, final question. What color is it going to be?
I believe it's a bright pinkish orange.
Okay.
Yes, I'm trying to think of something. I should have had one.
What's wrong with the color, Carlos? I am curious.
Yes.
Well, because PD.
Very
puts
close
orange
to
stickers
Justice
on there.
jacket.
There's nothing wrong
A little
with it. I
hint
just
of
like to
more
know.
Pink
orange.
versus orange. Got it. Okay.
Bright salmon. I can go all day.
Is that the color?
Very similar.
Going
Very
tie-dye. Let's go tie-dye.
I can go all day.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Congrats on the live release rate, Brian. That's a huge deal for the team. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Please
6
share
years
that.
since this happened, so very proud of the team. If you see them, high five.
We will
them.
do that. Thank you very much.
Brian takes time in the mirror to do the imitating thing.
What's that?
Part of that, bringing down the live release.
I heard you want another dog.
No, I want to give him back.
Oh, yeah. What did he eat this time?
Put the trash out all over my kitchen
Yeah.
this morning. How do I give him back? I see you walking
He's
away,
walking
Brian.
away.
I
He's
see you
leaving.
walking away.
That's funny.
All right, next up is financial achievements update by Reggie Zeno. Any questions?
Reggie, there's some great things in here. Is there anything you want to note for your team?
I just want to hear from Reggie because he says I never call him, so.
Oh, Reggie, you
Can you
shouldn't have
brag
said
about the
anything.
achievement?
He's coming up. Councilmember Peoples.
Thank you, Councilmember. We actually just simply wrote this to officially announce the 5th Transparency Star that was received. This star was received for the procurement transparency efforts we make relative to the online system. This would be the 5th of the 6 Transparency Stars, with 1 remaining for the Economic Development Department.
Good. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Blaylock.
Reggie, I just want to say thanks to you and the team and everybody for making this happen. This is something that we started talking about a couple of years ago, and I know it's been a process and has taken a lot of work, but it is greatly appreciated, so thank you very much.
I appreciate that, and especially the purchasing star. We had Haven Wynn to come on, seems like yesterday, but it's been 6 months, and he was able to expedite that process, and so a lot of appreciation goes out to him.
Well, and Reggie, are you working with Senna on this as well to kind of communicate this to the public?
Yes, we place the information on the city's website, but certainly we'll work.
Now we have some members of the media, and I realize this might not be as sexy as some topics, Harrison, but this is a really good one, right? He's just shaking his head at me. Oh, he's falling asleep. Never mind. Okay, we're excited about it, Reggie. Thank you.
Harrison's board.
Yeah.
Thanks, Reggie. Next up is fluoride in drinking water. Chris Harder's here to answer any questions.
I think, Chris, we have some questions from Councilmember Hill.
Thank you, Chris, for putting this together. Will you do a quick overview, and then I have some follow-up questions?
Sure. So the IR kind of describes some of the background related to water fluoridation. We've been fluoridating water in Fort Worth since 1965. We have water dosage or fluoridation dosage equipment at each one of our water plants. We follow the CDC guidelines in terms of the dosage rate. And one of the things that this IR brings out that's probably new to you all is that EPA will be performing a toxicity assessment. They've already started work on the just the literature reviews, and what we can expect down to this toxicity assessment is the determination of the fluoride levels that a person can be exposed to without likely any experienced health effects. So they've said this is going to be a whole of government approach, meaning that the outcome of this report from the EPA will be utilized by the Department of Health and Human Services, which CDC is under, that potentially could guide their future recommendations. So as part of this assessment, they will not be looking at the health benefits of fluoride addition. They will be just looking at a toxicity assessment.
Thank you for that. And then I know, I think it was September, there's a bill, SB 2653, that was on hold about prohibiting fluoridation in the water throughout the state of Texas. Can you provide some information on that as well?
So, you know, there are different bills that have been introduced and worked their ways through different states. So last year, Utah and fluoride banned the water fluoridation in their states. So, you know, kind of like Evan was saying, we see a lot of bills introduced, and, you know, depending on how much support they have, depends on how far they go in the legislative process. So we'll just be watching that.
Thank you. And then does the city, do we provide any specific warnings to pregnant women or infants that ingest City of Fort Worth water?
We do not. Like I say, we follow the CDC guidelines related to the dosage rate.
Okay. And then if the city were to stop fluoridization of the water, it's a big word for a Tuesday morning at 9, what would that process look like, and how many wholesalers would that impact?
So right now, we provide water to 1.5 million people. That's Fort Worth, as well as 33 wholesale customers. So really, before I would be recommending to you all about changing our fluoridation practices, there would be something that has to come out of EPA and Health and Human Services related to the dosage rate. Okay. Now that's what this toxicity assessment is designed to, is give us a dosage rate where there should not be any adverse health effects for the customers that receive it.
If citizens were concerned about this, can they reach out to the water department directly to get additional information?
Sure. Okay. We're always happy to field fluoride questions.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Any other questions for Chris? No.
Thank you.
Chris, I have to confess, yesterday I spoke to ACEC, and I was bragging about you and your department, and I did call you a nerd in front of all the people, which they all agreed that they're very glad you're in charge of our water utility. Everybody's laughing because they agree with me.
It's a compliment.
It's a compliment.
Okay, well, I take it as a compliment.
You should.
There should have been somebody disagreeing, I hope.
No one did. Unfortunately, no one disagreed, but yeah.
It was unanimous then.
We appreciate you very much. That was my way of saying thank you for the job you do.
You were with ACEC, it was all nerds.
Yeah, true. I think that's why they were laughing. Yeah, all bunch of engineers. No offense, Carlos.
Update on fiscal year 2026 mid-year adjustments for operating PIDs and tourism PIDs. And Brady Kirk is here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Brady? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll keep rolling through the agenda, council. If I go back to it, here we go. MNC changes, boards membership, commission changes, anything to announce to council? If not, we'll move to our first presentation, DFW International Airport bond documents and code amendments that require city approval, and I believe Brian Butler from DFW is here on behalf of the airport. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Mayor Parker and council members, thank you for having the DFW International Airport. Obviously, you're used to seeing Chris Poinsett here at the podium. He successfully retired this past week. After 22 years of service for the airport. Very grateful for his contributions. Just going to take a quick 30 seconds, do a self-introduction. Prior to accepting this job to come to the DFW airport, I was a CFO at Salt Lake City International Airport for 10.5 years. joined in 2015 right as they were starting a brand new $5.1 billion new airport development. We opened the first couple phases September of 2020, right during the pandemic, and they're just getting ready to finish the last 11 gates there in Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is a Delta hub. They have 70% of the market share there. Had great relationships with American, so I understand what it is to work for an airport that has a dominant carrier. I've already been over to American Airlines headquarters, met with their corporate real estate team, excited to get engaged and involved with them. But the reason we don't get many opportunities to come and brief you on what's going on at the international airport, so we're grateful for this. Whenever we're looking to issue debt, it does require the city of Fort Worth to approve the issuance of that debt. And then we've also been working to modernize our bond ordinances. And so I'm going to have our airport treasurer, Russell Selkirk, kind of go over that work that's been going on for the past 6 months. But just to kind of give you a high-level overview, if you guys have been out to the airport recently, you've seen all the construction going on. We're going to be asking for authorization to borrow up to $3 billion worth of debt. Over the next 4 years, we're looking to borrow up to $9 billion of debt, which sounds like a lot of money. But when you consider kind of the 2 major projects that we're doing, which is the Central Terminal area expansion, it's around $3 billion. And then obviously the brand new Terminal F, which will be a 31-gate terminal that will be all American Airlines, that will have both domestic and international capabilities. Right now it's sitting about $4 billion. We do anticipate to award more contracts this year and next year. These were kind of agreed to between the airport and American Airlines in uninflated dollars. We know that inflation is out there and we expect these numbers to go up, which is why we're giving ourselves a buffer on what we're kind of telling rating agencies as well as investors. But we also have a lot of other projects going on. International Parkway, we're trying to modernize the roadways, get rid of all those left-hand exits, move them to the right-hand side. And so really this is just a kind of a chart to kind of say, here's what is planned debt issuance and what kind of bucket do those fall in on a regular basis. So we're coming to you, we're basically asking you in your formal meeting on the 28th later this month to approve all the amendments we're doing to our master bond ordinance as well as our subordinate bond ordinance. And then after we give those updates, we do have a few code updates. Omar from our design, construction, and code departments here to kind of go over those. If you have questions, I would say on the bonds, after Russell's done kind of going over those, please ask those at that time, and then we'll bring Omar up. And then if you have any questions on the code adjustments that we're proposing, please ask Omar. So with that, I'm going to introduce Russell, if he'll come on up.
Thank you, Brian, and welcome. I know the team at DFW is very happy to have you here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, City Council, you just heard about all the exciting projects we're doing over there at the airport. Now for just some slightly less exciting ways about how we're going to finance these projects. So we've got a half dozen items for your consideration here today. The first 2 concern our bond ordinances. These are the master bond ordinance and our 55th supplemental bond ordinance. These are the governing documents that express all of the rights and obligations of the airport, as well as the investors who purchase our debt. These documents haven't been updated substantially in about 15 years. So we're availing ourselves of more contemporary legal language, as well as introducing the ability to issue additional financing instruments that we can't under the existing documents. The master bond ordinance pertains to the senior lien debt issuances, and the supplemental bond ordinance governs those issuances that would be done on a subordinate lien basis. So that's a distinction, but by and large, the language is similar across both of those ordinances. Moving on, the 72nd to the 75th supplemental bond ordinances. As Brian just mentioned, we are seeking authorization to issue up to $3 billion of debt to fund this year's capital program. We do anticipate there will be it'll probably be slightly less than that at the end of the day. Somewhere between $2 and $3 billion is what we're anticipating. But as we move through the cycle here of capital spend for all of these projects, we'll only be issuing as much debt as we need at that time. When we go to term out, we're anticipating that sale to happen sometime in August or September of this year. And that authorization would be good from June 1st of 26 until May of 2027. The 73rd supplemental bond ordinance, this is an annual authorization that we're required to seek in the state of Texas, allowing us to refund our commercial paper with bond proceeds. Finally, the 74th and 75th supplemental bond ordinances, both of these concern our commercial paper programs. One of the ways that we're trying to introduce additional flexibility and ensure a most efficient cost of funding that we can obtain is by increasing the amount of interim funding capacity that we have. So we use commercial paper to support capital spend in between our long-term debt issuances. The 74th would increase the max limit of our Series 1 commercial paper program from $750 million to $1.5 billion. And for the Series 2 program, we would be requesting an authorization to increase the limit from $600 million to $1 billion. And just to put those numbers in context for you, we expect our peak monthly spend to hit just over $200 million when we get to the peak spending curve of all of these capital projects. Increasing the size of these programs means we would have about 12 months worth of interim funding capacity to be able to meet those capital requirements. So that's generally speaking how we kind of think about size. You'll see on the page here these programs. Well, this Series 1 program hasn't been updated in some time, and our capital program looked very different back in 2019 than it does now with all the exciting projects we have going on. So finally, I will conclude. I think I had one more slide. Not advancing. There we go. Sorry about that. Just so everyone's aware, we are still working to put together the underwriting syndicate for the upcoming bond deals, so TBD in terms of who's actually taking us to market. But we'll be supported once again, as we have for many, many years, by our advisors at Hilltop Securities, Estrada Hinojosa, Bond Counsel McCall Parkhurst, as well as Weston Associates, and Disclosure Counsel Bracewell and Hardwick. We do anticipate that we'll carry the same ratings with the upcoming debt issuance as we have outstanding on our current bonds, so A1 with Moody's, AA- at S&P, and AA with Kroll. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
You're in the clear.
Okay.
Councilmember Flores.
I think you said it, but I just kind of want to understand it a little better. So you don't have any concerns about any added costs to your debt service?
Compared to what we've published in our financial plan, which is what we put together for the last official statement we did in September of last year, we actually think we can do better than that. In other words, by introducing some new financing instruments, some more flexibility, expanding our interim funding, our goal to a large extent is actually to come in better than what we've projected just 9 months ago. So, and I'll give you sort of a sense for that, right? We think our peak debt outstanding is going to be somewhere between $16 and $17 billion, and we think our annual debt service will reach about $1.3 billion, roughly double what it is now. So everything we're doing here is with that sort of vision in mind of how do we outperform? How do we not sign ourselves up for 25, 30-year debt until we absolutely have to? Making more use of funding opportunities that are, call it, nearer term, short term, or medium term in nature, so that we get the benefit, hopefully, of lower interest rates when we do go to market with those obligations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. With that, I think I'm turning it over to my colleague, Omar Elbagalati, with Code and Construction. Give it a shot.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So a little bit of background about the amendments that we are going through with our International Building Code for special inspection. So in the background, we have a requirement in Chapter 17 per the International Building Code IBC for the owner to hire a third-party special inspection. This is not your typical inspections. These are your welding for your steel and so on. What we are amending here, we are asking to change this from being funded and regulated and managed by the owner to be funded by the contractor, but still being authorized by us as the owner. And the reason being, in a typical world, like here in the city, you have three parties. You have the owner, and you have the city code department, and you have the contractor. In our case, we are both. We are the owner, and we are also the code department. We have our own code inspectors. And the way that it's being done right now is we are regulating, and we are hiring a third-party special inspector. Then our code department will still go and re-inspect what the special inspectors have already inspected. So it creates a lot of duplication. And also, with the size of the construction programs that we just were talking about, we have almost 85 active construction sites as we speak right now at DFW. It creates a lot of capacity constraints to have one third party to be able to do all of these inspections, which at the end results in delays in these inspections. And in that case, while we will move this to be funded by the contractor, increasing our capacity and increasing scalability, we will still remain the authority as the code department and as myself as a building official to select and deselect or remove any special inspector third party hired by the contractor. So there is no fox guarding the in-house scenario here. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Councilmember Beck? Councilmember Peoples.
Yeah, I just want to ask if you're willing to come back to the city of Fort Worth. You want to come back and manage all of our construction projects at TPW and get our pavement management back on track the way you did before you left?
Thank you. I was just talking to Lauren. I said, like, you shouldn't have let me leave that office.
Well, we can. We'll talk to Jay about that hiring freeze, but
yeah. Councilmember Peoples.
Well, it's an extraordinary job, and I had an opportunity to tour it, and so saw many of the projects. I guess my only concern is by bringing in a third party to do the inspections, how are we going to maintain what are you going to do to make sure that the quality of the work is consistent and being done?
That's awesome. So in addition to code and special inspection, we actually have a quality assurance program. So we have a $60 million budget for the bond program, like for the next 4 years. They are 24/7 DFW representatives on site watching the contractor.
Any other questions, council? Thank you for the updates. Good to see you. Brian, is that good? Okay, we got a thumbs up. Council, we can keep rolling. Next up is an overview of green space initiatives, and Allison Docker, with our green space initiatives manager, is here to give us a presentation.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me. Good morning, Mayor and Council and Jay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Allison Docker, the city's green space champion, and I just want to share a few updates today on all about green spaces.
You should have District 5 underneath Austin's name, yeah.
It is Tandy Hills.
There it goes.
So green spaces. Green spaces are critical to shaping our everyday lives, and they directly impact how we our experiences and how we move about the city. They're the places, the playgrounds where you take your kids for a play date. They're the trails where you go for a walk or a jog, ride your bike. They are the paths that you hike, the fields where you play sports. And they're the open spaces with the gorgeous views. They're the creeks that you play in and the urban forests where you finally trek down that bird that you've been looking for. These, they're also the tree-lined streetscapes designed for vehicles as well as people, and that become your favorite spot to enjoy a coffee and a conversation. The importance of these spaces goes far beyond aesthetic. They're not just a really nice amenity to have. They promote physical health.
Oh, they're talking about one of the pictures. Oh, so back one. That's okay.
The park in the top left corner is actually in Austin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show.
She's trying to inspire us.
Fantastic examples.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about inspiring parks. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that could be your one.
So These spaces are not just, they go beyond the aesthetic. They're not just a nice to have amenity. They promote physical health by giving you an opportunity to get outside. They boost mental health. They provide places to meet friends and family. They foster community connection. They can also have critical ecological benefits called ecosystem services. I'll get into that a little bit later. And then they go hand in hand with economic vitality. People want to live, work, and play where they have access to parks and trails, and it's often a big factor where they choose to buy a home if they have that access. So keeping all of this in mind as our city grows is key. We just passed 1 million residents, and based on data from COG, we are projecting a 31% overall growth citywide over the next 25 years. And so growth and development is healthy, but if we're not strategic on how and what we preserve now, we could miss the chance if we wait too long. The goal is to balance development with livability and to have the foresight to create a connected green network. For example, 60 years ago, a few people saw an opportunity along the Trinity Trail. Because of their vision and persistence, our city boasts one of the most successful urban trail systems in the country. Streams and Valleys continues this work alongside TRWD and the city to advocate for trails. The city has made impressive strides building a strategic green planning alignment over the last decades, really, and then that brings green space front and center as part of an overall strategy for growth. We have the Good-Natured Green Space Initiative's goal to conserve 10,000 acres. The comp plan is utilizing green space as a key strategy for future land use. Urban Forestry's recent master plan has a goal of 30% canopy coverage throughout the whole city. TPW's Moving a Million effort is looking for identifying opportunities for connection through a trail gap study. And Park's recent Greenprint master plan has identified a strategic goal as vibrant nature, cultivating natural spaces throughout the city as well. And all of this works together to increase the community's access to the outside and nature and improves the Fort Worth Trust for Public Land Park score. So coordinated efforts like this make a lot of sense, and when we're all working together for a similar goal, it creates real measurable impact and a connected green network. So currently, the Parks Department manages an impressive 13,000 acres of parkland throughout the city, and the Good-Natured goal is to add an additional 10,000 acres over the next several years. And through a collaborative effort, both internally and externally, we have added just over 3,400 acres to the citywide green space network, getting us about 34% of the way to our goal. We've done this through open space acquisitions, parkland additions, city policy protections, that's like zoning or ordinances, internal partnerships. This one's an exciting one to talk about. So the internal partnership, the acreage reflected here is through MOUs and agreements with Parks and Open Space and the Water Department and properties around Lake Worth. And then external partnerships, that includes our recent access agreement with the Fort Worth ISD, as well as some development agreements. And so one of the categories that I wanted to highlight is the city's open space program. And I wanted to share, we've been working with our fantastic communications team on a video for open space, and it drops today, so this is the first time that we can share it.
The identity of Fort Worth has always been deeply rooted in the land. The rivers and creeks and prairies and woodlands sustain generation after generation of indigenous peoples. In time came the backbone of a cattle empire, a vital rail hub, and now we live in one of the fastest growing regions in the country. With unprecedented growth comes new challenges and new opportunities. And with it comes the responsibility to protect the natural resources that make our city livable, resilient, and distinct. So how do you grow a city and still leave room to breathe? You start with the land. Since 2019, the city of Fort Worth has strategically preserved more than 600 acres of high-quality open space made up of prairies, forests, and waterways. These ecosystems are more than just a pretty view. They soak up floodwater, mitigate high summer temperatures, clean our air, shelter wildlife, and offer a place to stretch our legs and clear our heads. They give us trails to wander, rivers to paddle, creeks to explore, and hills to climb. The Open Space Program was created as a proactive solution to the pressures of urban expansion. It's guided by science, informed by community input, and aligned with Fort Worth's broader planning and environmental goals. Conserve high-quality natural areas, deliver measurable environmental benefits, create equitable access to nature for all residents, support long-term economic vitality, and strengthen the health and resilience of our region. As Fort Worth evolves, our open spaces remain essential infrastructure. By accelerating stewardship and conservation today, we're investing in a future where growth and sustainability go hand in hand, because the land that built Fort Worth should remain open.
They did a great job.
It's a great video, and I have to give a shout out to Jeremy Van Wright, who's no longer with the city, but he was in the property management department, and he was a fantastic voiceover for that video. So the Open Space Program, I've had a chance to meet with most of you on this, so you're fairly familiar with all the updates here. So I'll go through this quickly, but one thing I did want to highlight is that we have spent about 97% of our funding, and we are working on a plan to continue these efforts if the bond election comes through in the spring and we are able to have another budget, and we plan to add another 500 to 700 acres to that portfolio. So while we are still focused on opportunities for acquisition, we are also starting to pivot to activation and creating access. We are coordinating closely with the Parks Department, who's already started initial site reviews, and we're looking to wrap that up in the next month or so. A next step will be to take biological assessments and ecosystem inventory. This is a great opportunity also to partner with groups like the Texas Master Naturalist, as well as other aligned entities like the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And then very soon, we plan to advertise an RFQ for the Open Space Strategic Plan. And this is going to take recommendations from the Open Space Strategic Report a few years ago and really take it to the next phase. It will help outline a toolkit and a process to take inventory of what we have, identify opportunities, and that we can move quickly to bring some spaces online, because that's quite often the first thing that we hear from the public is they want to go hike immediately. So as we've been adding acreage, the conversation around land management has also come front and center. Managing open spaces and natural areas is very different than how you manage traditional recreational parkland. The Green Space team is working closely with the experts in the Parks Department, as well as coordinating with other departments like Stormwater and Environmental, to create a unified strategy towards the managing and stewardship of natural lands. The management and stewardship also, the implementation tends to look a little bit different than your typical maintenance as well. I wanted to highlight a few fun examples. So there's stream habitat assessments. This is a great opportunity to, again, coordinate with the Environmental Department and their stream monitoring program. Managing natural lands includes invasive removal. This can be done either by a forestry mulcher, but I also prefer the much more ecosystem sensitive and cuter version of the goats. And we'll be starting a goat program actually this spring. And then
Adopt a goat.
And then prescribed burning. We're extremely lucky to have the talented staff and leadership at the Fort Worth Nature Center and Refuge to lead the way on this effort. Burning is an extremely efficient way to reduce hazardous wildfire fuel loads, control invasive species, and promote native vegetation and regrowth. And they're not a one-and-done approach. They do require careful planning and effort to get it right, but the end result is a healthy habitat.
And Allison, I believe when we were at Rock Creek recently, you shared with me that other jurisdictions, say City of Arlington, are coming to us to learn a bit more about what we're doing.
Yeah, they've approached the Jareds at the Nature Center for guidance and training on that, which is great. Yeah, because that's ultimately the effort or the goal. We want to be the leader in that category. And I think they've broken a record for the amount of acres that they've burned this past year. So,
and special thanks to our fire department, of course. Also,
yes,
just right alongside. Yes.
And so when a habitat is healthy and welcoming to plants and animals and insects, it is also healthy and welcoming to human beings. So these systems, these ecosystems, have been in place for thousands of years, and they play a critical role in managing our environment. And the benefits of a healthy ecosystem are called ecosystem services. And while there's quite a few here to talk about, I just wanted to highlight a few that are extremely impactful on our everyday lives. So plants are amazing air purifiers. Trees produce oxygen. They clean the air by removing pollutants that would otherwise contribute to human health problems like asthma and other respiratory diseases, allergies. A healthy habitat directly impacts water quality as well as water supply. Native trees and plants have really deep and strong root systems that clean and filter the water. Green spaces are places for water to soak back into the ground and back into our water table. And then protecting floodplains and riparian areas supports flood mitigation. The healthy habitat stabilizes stream banks and reduces erosion and sedimentation. This protects homes and property from flooding and can prevent hundreds of millions of dollars of being spent on future infrastructure repair and improvements. Healthy mature tree canopy and planted areas can moderate hot urban temperatures. Landscaping around a building can keep temperatures down by 2 degrees, and larger landscaped areas with many canopy trees can adjust temps up to 20 degrees as well. So in summary, really, nature can be a tool if we work with it. So the Green Space team, in an effort to work with this, the Green Space team is drafting a proposed policy that establishes a cohesive strategy outlining a citywide vision with measurable goals for the natural land management. It identifies a roadmap that prioritizes conservation, resource allocation, and appropriate public access, essentially aligning land management objectives with community needs. It does not get into the weeds, pun intended. It does not mandate a detailed management plan for every natural area. It just provides the vision for how it could be managed. It enables the city to apply consistent data-informed strategies to protect natural resources, strengthen resilience, and deliver long-term environmental, social, and economic benefits to the Fort Worth community. The vision is to improve quality of life for all Fort Worth residents through these 4 main goals. We'll be submitting an IR to you guys at the next work session for more information, and then plan to follow that up with a resolution for your consideration at the end of the month. And to bring it all home, this is all good for the future and good for growth. These strategic approaches result in social and economic benefits for the region. The cultivation of green space not only improves the livability and connectivity between residents, it enables that future generations can appreciate the same natural beauty that we love about Fort Worth and ensure that our city thrives well into the future. So, thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Great presentation. Any questions or comments from council? No? Wonderful job. We appreciate all your hard work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the ability to do it.
Council, next up is a property management facility update, and Val Washington is going to start things for us.
Good morning, Mayor, Council, City Manager, ACM team. I'm here this morning to provide a brief update on facility update, specifically 200 Texas Street. And I'm really championing the work of Director Marilyn Marvin, Brian Glass, Nikki Watts in that department, who have been working for several years to really keep this project moving. So just kind of a brief history, this really started when we closed on buying New City Hall back in 2021. Pretty much internally, we mobilized immediately with Dana Bergdorf's leadership to really start looking at how we were going to use 200 Texas Street once we started moving departments out of that building and into New City Hall. Once we started convening meetings, we worked with Elements of Architecture to come to the table with us to help work through what different stacking and flooring and space options could look like. And I want to share, we went through a couple of different iterations before I share kind of our final plan. But if you go back to September of 2023, we were really looking at 200 Texas as a police facility mainly. We saw that as good opportunities for the police department to combine Central Division, bring Calvert in, and some of the other accessory operations, and really allow them better coordination within the police department, having all of those functions together. We also were going to have some other smaller occupants, Sister Cities, TPW parking right away, Fort Worth TV. And at that time as well, we decided to put 5 city properties on the market in that Monroe Street area, including selling the Taylor Street garage. And I say that as we continue through this presentation, and I think in any large metropolitan area, parking is a premium. And so really the Taylor Street Garage became a focus of our conversations in kind of the early years of doing this. When we started evolving and started working again closely with the police department, parking really was kind of a problem for us, especially since we weren't keeping the Taylor Street Garage. We started working with the police department and really understanding how they would use the building. It wasn't your normal 8 to 5 office functions, especially with patrol officers who would be maybe coming in, coming out, just using touchdown spaces, that we really started to reevaluate that and thought maybe that wasn't the best idea. We also were concerned about the need to potentially have to build a brand new parking garage, which felt a little out of scope because we had not really considered having to do that when we were working on this project. So once we decided not to have the police department move in as the main occupant, we worked with Cody Wittenberg and his team and thought environmental services would be a good fit. Once we fast forward, and then we have a new city manager, Jay Chapa, who joined our team. We also have a new police chief, Chief Garcia. So we've had opportunities for them to both weigh in and take a look at this. And so in November of 2025, we made another adjustment and decided that we would keep the Taylor Street Garage. And I'll tell you, that was a relief for the staff. I know Dana, Jess, many of us around the table were really concerned about selling the garage and being able to provide employee parking in a convenient way for our employees. So once we decided to retain the Taylor Street Garage, we also were working with Cody and his team, and if you remember, we were here a few months ago talking about City Hall here and potentially moving the city manager's office up to the 18th floor. We really started vetting that through, and in working with Cody and his team and Dana and other city departments, really realized that it would be really in everyone's kind of best interest from a service standpoint to move environmental services to the 18th floor. Versus the city manager's team, we're going to stay on 14. But you can see the different chess pieces as we're moving through here. So once we decided to move environmental services back to City Hall, it really opened up conversations to engage again with the police department and see what functions we could bring into this building. So again, I've already touched on this. Parking was a focus. We spent a lot of time working with all the occupants in the building, understanding, again, the units that would be here, their parking needs, their work vehicles, their personal vehicles, getting in and out. And again, PMD partnered closely with the police department, ITS, all the other occupants of this building. And we had solid parking numbers. In working with Chief Garcia and William, determining that the police department could fit in this building, once we really analyzed the parking and again made that adjustment for environmental services to move to the 18th floor. So what I have now is a plan, and we've got a 4-phase plan that we're going to roll through. We've broken this project again into phases. We're going to touch on phase 1 and 2 first, and then talk about phases 3 and 4. So for phase 1, we are moving in Police Central Division and the Bike Patrol. They're going to move into the space on the 2nd floor with an approximate cost of $4.4 million, and we're going to utilize CCPD funding for that. I should note that over the past couple of years, as we've been looking at the 200 Texas Street plan and how we were going to fund some of these options, we've been working closely with the police department and utilizing CCPD to help cover a big bulk of that expense. So we've been saving up money for the last couple of years. And again, we think this is a good use since it's mainly going to be a police function. You see the timeline there. They've started some of the work and they plan on moving in April of 2027. One thing I forgot to share is if you look at the old City Hall footprint or 200 Texas Street, it's got approximately 162,000 square feet. It's got a lower level, the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, and then a tunnel area. The next phase is phase 2, where we're going to move in Calvert, ITS help desk, and then also take care of some system infrastructure. You'll hear and you'll see system infrastructure on a couple of slides, and I want to just define kind of all of the things that are falling into that category. That includes modernizing elevators, updating restrooms, facade and envelope repairs, refreshing all of the floors, so carpet, paint, any of those kind of minor repairs that need to be done, replacing electrical distribution equipment, which is very, very expensive, and then also looking at all of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing equipment. And those are things that we would do for this building regardless of the occupants. It's part of property management, just taking care and doing building upkeep. And I want to note too there, this is also CCPD funding. So we are proposing phases 1 and 2. We use CCPD funding that will cover those police functions. And also, I didn't go into the details, we've got some customer service functions. They're going to be working on the gym. There's going to be spaces for police records and crime scene also. And that's going to be the 3rd floor, lower level, and then space on the tunnel. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just one question before we move on from the gym space. Will the Police Athletic League still be able to operate in this new, I guess, the new old building?
That is a good question. I would think that they would. I believe that there's space for them to do so.
Okay, awesome. I just want to make sure that we're not risking that
And I'll,
program for the
no,
kids.
and I'll confirm with Chief Garcia and the police department and follow up if that's not true, if that's not accurate.
Perfect, thank you.
So phase 3 is really looking at that system infrastructure at a price tag of $5.5 million. This is an area where we have a budget gap, and I'll follow up here in just a few slides on some recommendations on how we would like to handle that. But again, that's just really looking at the infrastructure of the building. We need to fund that for regardless of who is in the building. And we did spend a lot of time. We wanted to program the space, so whoever is in here, it's long-term space. 20, 30 years, we wanted to take a lot of time to understand the programming and again, make sure we're getting it right as we're starting this work.
So ACM Washington, what falls under systems infrastructure? What's under that budget gap?
Well, that's a lot of the electrical work, doing the system upgrades. I can send you, property management has a detailed itemized list, but it's those bigger picture items, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, really those kind of the guts and systems of the building. And again, maintenance items that we would have to do as part of upkeep of one of the city buildings anyway, regardless of the occupants. But I can send you a list and the details behind that.
Okay, oh, so that's non-PD, okay, because
I'm sorry, non-PD,
I thought we had
yes.
covered that in the previous slides.
No,
Okay.
and we have it, we're doing it in a couple of phases. That's why I said system maintenance will show up in a couple of places. But this is more overall building, so we didn't look to CCPD. This is more of a overall building property management function as we looked at those items. And then going into the last phase, phase 4, which is moving in the library's history center on the lower level. This is really contingent on the bond program passing in the May election. And we do note here we have some funding provided through the bond program, but even with that funding, we still have a funding gap of about $1.7 million. As we look through and have worked with the police department on this project, there are opportunities to eliminate some leases. So I do have some opportunities to eliminate leases and recognize that savings, and we would have the police department and working with property management and other teams really look at any savings realized and reallocate those for priority operational and capital needs. And we would follow up on what those things are. But through this exercise and as we're spending money and looking for money, we are finding savings and efficiencies through being able to cancel these leases. For an overall budget summary, we just have a breakdown of the phases 1 through 4. We list the funding sources with CCPD being a bulk of the funding. As we look through, phases 1 and 2 are fully funded with CCPD and we're ready to go with those. With phases 3 and 4, we're proposing that we work with Reggie's team and the city manager to identify future debt capacity and come back to mayor and council in the fall once we have some capacity and then issue COs to cover that remaining balance of the work. And just an overall timeline, this is really a 2-year project starting in January of 26 and then going through December of 27. With phase 3 really being the tail that wraps up the work with that system infrastructure. And then we have a couple of recommendations, and after having an opportunity here to share this information and receive any questions and concerns that you may have, we are proposing to move forward with an informal report that will outline all of this information and share these details at an upcoming council meeting. Then follow up with an M&C to fund phases 1 and 2 with an appropriation from CCPD, and then coming with an M&C in fall of 2026 once we have access to that debt capacity to look at finishing phases 3 and 4, the system infrastructure and history center, in addition to the bond funding that will hopefully come from the history center that's in the bond program. And with that, I'd like to take any questions and concerns, and I appreciate your time.
Questions from council? I have a few, Val. If you go to, first of all, who owns Calvert? Who do we lease it from for $1?
TRWD. Thank you,
Okay.
Marilyn.
And do we have any idea what they would want to do with Calvert? Have we had that conversation with them? Great. And when was the plan for that to be underwater anyway?
When is it going to be underwater anyway? Marilyn, do you know that time?
Well, guess, like 2033 or something like that. But
yeah, I would think in the 2030s.
Okay.
That project, the south end of the channels project's supposed to start next year.
Right.
Two-year project.
Okay, thank you. On the History Center, and my questions are not because I don't like the idea, I just have just general questions. You know, we probably do need a History Center. Do we all collectively think this is the right location for that, where people will actually come, park, go inside, enjoy it? I know this is probably a larger conversation with library as well. It's just a large price tag, right? And is this the best location? Have we explored other options with university systems? Those are just things I want us to think through, especially considering there is a funding gap. Yeah, Councilmember Crane.
I remember a conversation maybe a year or two ago when Regina took over the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, and she said, there seems to be no history in this museum. So I want to make sure we're fully exploring those options there too before we have put this price tag, because it just makes sense.
Agreed. Midori, you can come
Yeah,
up.
and well, it's part of the bond program that we're doing public outreach for now, but Midori, if you want to provide some more details on that.
Good morning. So we have looked at several different options, and it's moved a couple of times. I think probably the biggest issue is that we had a very, very large space at Central Library. And really the bulk of the History Center are all of the documents and photographs and things that live in the collection. So just to give you an example, right now we're spending, I can't remember the amount, but it's a pretty significant amount to store these items. And when people want to access them, they come to the current History Center location, which is the former Seminary Library on Bolt, and they make a request, and then we have to contact the storage company to have them locate the items and then actually drive them to the location for use. So we've gotten a lot of customer feedback, like they preferred having everything in one location when we had it at Central Library. And when the space became available, or there was space at Old City Hall, we were very excited to be able to reconsolidate the collection and save a little bit of money as well on the storage.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful. Thank you. And then overall downtown, so on that first slide, the second slide you have, Val, September 2023 original plan, talk to us about the 5 additional properties that are just briefly listed in that first pillar, because I know the decision has been made not to sell the Taylor Street parking garage, but that's the last time you mentioned the other properties. Can you provide an update on that as well?
Yes, so we are working with JLL. They are helping us to locate potential buyers for that property. And there's 5 of them. And the locations, they're right around, it's 319 West 10th Street, 917 Taylor, 910 Monroe, 908 Monroe, and 900 Monroe. And the last we noted, there's about a $19 million value tied to those properties. So we're working closely with JLL to sell those.
Jay.
The $19 million value was when it included the actual parking garage. The new value is more around 9 million.
Thank you.
The fact that they had valued the garage for just 10 million and it was gonna cost us 31 million to build a garage for the police department. It's one of the first things when I heard that, the first week I was here, I said, what are we doing?
Keep the garage.
We'll keep the garage. And so that's what kind of led to now police being able to go have the central division consolidation as was the original plan to come back into fruition. So just from strictly financial standpoint, it didn't make sense to sell the garage for what it costs to build a garage now.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I want to note again, Jay's correct. The 19 million included Taylor Street, so removing the garage component brought that down to about 9 million for the value of those 5
And
properties.
those buildings are if you recall, where the water department was located, the Gordon Swift building next to it, the parking lot to the south of that, as well as the Railroad Commission building that we were in.
One last question is, this has been a topic for a long time, and I know some council members have voiced an option too of the reverter clause that exists on Old City Hall that would revert back to federal government if we weren't to use it for municipal purposes. Have we had recent conversations with GSA to see if they would release that reverter? Doesn't really matter right now because we're going to use it for municipal purposes, but I think if there's a chance to release that, it may make sense for future use.
No, thank you for referencing that. Honestly, I don't know when the last time we've connected with them. It's probably been a minute, and it's probably worthwhile to reach out to them and have some conversations.
Thank you. Councilmember Peoples.
So I only had a question. So since municipal court is right across the street, I love the idea of putting the History Center all in one location, but have we looked at the long-term growth for the municipal courts and if we might need any of that space in Old City Hall for them?
We have, I would say yes and no. I know we have been working closely with William Rumley and the judges on making sure we have plenty of courtrooms, and we had renovated Public Safety Building a couple of years ago to add new courtroom space in there. I feel like we're probably good now. I think for future conversations, we'll need to keep working with William Johnson and William Rumley at the court team to really analyze that space. And to see where we have other city facilities that could potentially house a municipal court space as well, that I think we would keep our options open, especially as the court team is looking at some of the court in the community and having some off-site locations that I think we would utilize those opportunities to maybe get out in the community with the courts.
No, and I really like that. We just had a very successful court in the community, but it just made, having toured the municipal court, and I know that's a historic building, and we want to keep it. I just thought as it grows, as the city grows, if we needed to expand, it would seem to me that the right across the street would be a better fit. So, but as long as you all are taking that into consideration.
And property
I see Mr.
management.
Rumley back there, and just grateful for the work that they're doing to get outside of the environs.
I know property management is working closely too on just assessing that public safety building. So I think as a part of those conversations, there'll be opportunities to look at space.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you, Valerie. Right. Appreciate it. That is the last of our presentations, council. Do we have any future agenda item requests or reports? Councilmember Flores, and I'll move around the table. Councilmember Hall, you'll be next.
Thank you. I'd like to get an IR. I know that we received one when it was recent to changes in state law. When it came to enhanced enforcement on street takeovers, I'd like to get an update for the benefit of the newer council members as well, as far as what our approach is, what we're doing in regards to street takeovers.
Councilmember Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request an informal report on the impact of Senate Bill 1008 and House Bill 2844 on local jurisdiction authority to regulate mobile food vendor operations. This request is pretty much prompted by a recent constituent matter, an ongoing constituent matter involving concerns about a mobile food vendor operating from a private residence, including the alleged preparation of food, both at the residence and within the vehicle. Both parties have contacted our office for assistance, and the situation has highlighted the regulatory challenges associated with recent legislation changes. Alan, it appears these bills have altered how certain activities which have been previously considered non-compliant are addressed and in some cases have created less clarity around enforcement and jurisdictional boundaries, including where and in what a manner a mobile food vendor may operate. And so the purpose of this report is to better understand the current regulatory structure, identify any gaps and ambiguities, and highlight considerations for maintaining local home rule authorities so Fort Worth can effectively implement and enforce policies that address our community's needs.
Any other future agenda items from Council? Councilmember Martinez?
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items. I'd like a report on contractor infrastructure projects, specifically the bond improvements in residential areas to ensure they are adhering to the projected timelines. It feels like these projects often extend beyond expectations, and I hate to compare, but if the county can lay asphalt on a 4-mile stretch, why is it taking the city weeks to do 1 block? And I know it's a lot of different things that go into those projects. You know, we have sidewalks, driveways, and of course the concrete, but asphalt should not take that long. Additionally, I'm requesting a report on the response times from Development Services regarding inspections for unpermitted work or improvements. It's concerning that sometimes the wait for an inspector can be so long that projects are completed and may end up requiring court action and ultimately demolition. So I want to hear how they work with code to respond to those type of requests from constituents.
Any other items from council? Okay.
And one more item. I'd like an I&R from ACM Washington and her team, Maryland, about how we bid out some of these contracts and what work we're doing to ensure that small businesses are included.
Going once, going twice?
Just so you know, we have a couple IRs on the small business contractor program in the next work session.
Okay, good. That may answer my questions.
Okay, council, we're actually going to convene into an executive session at this point. The city council will conduct a closed meeting in order to seek the advice of its attorneys as authorized by section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. Deliberate concerning real property matters as authorized by section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code. Deliberate concerning economic development negotiations as authorized by section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code. Deliberate concerning security as authorized by section 551.076 and section 551.089 of the Texas Government Code. Deliberate the personnel matters relating to the city manager, city attorney, city auditor, and city secretary as authorized by section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code.
Just played with a little bit, yeah. But it's working.